I'm here at Infiniti Park Avenue in Brossard, Quebec to look at two very exciting vehicles. On the left side is the 2019 Infiniti Q50S 400 all-wheel drive. And on the right is the 2019 Genesis G70 3.3 twin-turbo sport model. Both of these vehicles cost about $58,000 Canadian. Both of them have 4 doors, twin-turbo V6 engines, all-wheel drive, and performance brakes. But which one should you buy if you're in the market for it? They're not the BMW or Mercedes, so they do kind of have something different to offer people. We're going to be showing you everything about these two cars, taking them on a drive, and going over everything you need to know if you're in the market for a compact executive sports sedan. Now, the Genesis G70 is one of the cars that I've been really excited to drive, and that's why we're so excited to be doing this showdown with the Infiniti Q50S, because they're both pretty similarly priced. They both offer a lot of the same things. And if you've watched our full spotlight on the Infiniti Q50S, you should know all about it. But we'll give you a quick rundown of some of the features this car has. First off, let's pretend that it's fully loaded. It doesn't have all the packages on this one, and neither did the one that we filmed before. But you really don't miss anything else except for ventilated seats. That's about it. That's the only feature you really can't get on this that you can get on pretty much any other compact executive sedan. You'd have all the safety tech, active cruise control, blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, forward collision, rear cross traffic alert. It even has rear collision as well. You've got your dual screens up here. We talked about that during our review. I feel that it is still a dated system here, but people do like it. We had a lot of people comment saying that they do like this setup with the Infiniti Q50S. So there's a lot going for this car, and especially once we jump into the Genesis, you'll find out how the comfort differs with this vehicle. I find that the seats here, a lot more supportive, you sit upright, more space too. I find I'm a lot more comfortable in this car, and if you got people in the back, you know, when we were driving it before, my daughter was able to sit in the back seat with no problem. I just feel that you have more space overall in the Q50S. 400 horsepower also makes a bit of a difference too, right? Just a bit. It's not a huge difference. You get about 35 horsepower more than on the Genesis, but the torque is a little off too, which is weird. Hyundai's getting less power out of a slightly bigger engine, but then again, Nissan has been doing twin turbos for quite some time now, so they are really quite good at it, so they know what they're doing when it comes to these types of engines, and that's why they get 400 horsepower out of such a relatively small engine speaking. But what else can we talk about when it comes to this car? It's that power. Yeah, I think that's what most people are going to be looking at this car for. Sure, you know, it is a nice looking car on the outside. It does have a lot of power. There is a lot going for it, but there's that power. That's the real key with this vehicle. And we talked about it during our spotlight. There aren't many vehicles on the market that give you 400 horsepower for the price. That's the thing. Can you use it all? I'd say so, especially compared to a lot of the other performance cars that we've driven this year. They have a lot of power, but you just can't use it. With 400, it certainly does sound a little excessive, but you can still use it. You can use all of that on a daily drive, and that's the whole point of our episodes here. You know, we'd love to take these cars on a track and talk about how they perform, but the majority of people are going to be using this day to day, going back and forth to work. There's no doubt that this is comfortable, even in Sport Plus mode, which we're in right now. It certainly picks up if you want it to. It's got good pull. The great thing too is with all-wheel drive, it can be a all-around great vehicle 365 days out of the year. You don't have to worry about the snow. Do you want to be driving it in the snow? Probably not, but the option is certainly there for you should you choose to do it. But that's the thing, you get the best of both worlds with the Q50S. You get the comfort, you get the power. The interior, you know, love it or hate it, right? You do have sort of the leather wrap around and whatnot. You know, seats are comfortable. Side of the console here is leather. You know, it is nice. It is similar to the Genesis in a lot of ways. Is it as modern? No, not at all. But it looks good. And really, when it comes down to it, you're looking at a number of things, right? You want a car that you can love. You want a car that looks good for you, feels comfortable for you, but also gets the job done all around. And I gotta say, driving it again just really reminds me of how good this car is overall. And especially if you get all the packages again, you're looking at about $58,495, I believe, Canadian, for this completely fully loaded with the two packages that you can get for it. I think it's a good value. I mean, man, I am loving it more than I did, I think, the week that I had it, because I forgot it. Now I've driven something so similar. Reminds me of how good this car ultimately is. And I know what you're thinking, drag race, drag race, drag race. No, not gonna happen. Not gonna even tease it a little bit here, because this car has 38 kilometers on it, so I'm not gonna be redlining it. Big thanks again to Infiniti Park Avenue in Brossard for letting us film, because again, without their support here, we wouldn't have a showdown for you. So I'm not going to be doing anything performance oriented with this car. You can see a little bit more of that in our episode of Test Drive Spotlight on the Infiniti Q50 Red Sport 400 all-wheel drive. Click the link in the top right corner of your screen, or the link in the description for the video to find out everything. That's the thing, this is a showdown. I always forget to mention it, but we're not going over all the details. So you got to watch the full spotlight on both of these cars to know absolutely everything we thought about them, because we're just comparing it. And speaking of which, it's time to jump into the Genesis G70 now and see how it compares and how it differs from this Infiniti Q50. Now that I'm back in the Genesis G70, which is a car I've had for about half a week now, I've gotten used to it, and it's one of the cars that I've thought that at first I had a really weird opinion about it, but the more I've driven it, the more I like it. But after driving that Q50S, I was reminded of what a compact sports sedan should feel like. Have some room in it. That was the first thing I noticed with this car, is it felt tight on the inside. Yeah, and I've kind of gotten a little bit more used to it now that we've driven it. It feels a little bit more spacious now that I've gotten the right seating position, but it certainly is smaller than the Infiniti Q50S. Now, from an exterior perspective, both cars really are the same. They have front LED headlights. The Infiniti has fog lights, though. This one doesn't. You've got LED taillights. Both have performance brakes. These are Brembos. Those ones on the Infiniti are their own in-house brand kind of thing. But for the most part, they are very similar on the exterior. I don't really see a huge difference between them aesthetically, because they do look good. They're both very sporty. And even the interiors here, you've got the same, it's interesting, they both have red stitching throughout the dashboard and along the door cards. And yeah, the top of the door cards for both are plastic. But I find that this one might just be a little bit more luxury oriented. I do like this diamond stitching on the seating. I do like it on the door cards. It gives you a bit of a depth that you don't quite get on the Infiniti. But here's the thing. What do you really want out of a car? They offer pretty much the same stuff, the same tech, all the same safety features. The biggest difference with this, we do have a wireless charger in the center console here, and we also have ventilated front seats. There's heated rear seats as well. So you get a couple little tiny things, and if those are important to you, then the Genesis is the way to go. But it's interesting, after filming the Q50S Red Sport the first time, I actually noticed that there were a lot of them on the road. A lot more than I thought there was when I first got the car. Started seeing them everywhere. Not only just the Q50Ss, but the Red Sports. So far with the Genesis, I've only seen 2 on the road during our week with this vehicle, but really in general, I don't see too many of them because it is still a new vehicle. And I think that's part of the reason why I would take this vehicle over the Infiniti, is just because there is a little bit more exclusivity to it. But again, when it comes to the rest of the interior stuff, things that you're going to be using on a day-to-day basis, the navigation here works better. Is it luxury oriented? Certainly not. It's very good for a consumer grade navigation and infotainment system, but it is not a luxury system. iDrive from BMW is still our top pick, but it does beat out the Infiniti. Seating though, that's really the thing. As I mentioned, I'm kind of tight in here. The seats are a little bit more sport oriented, and especially when you put the car into sport mode, the bolsters will firm up a little bit. So space is a little bit smaller in here, but it depends on what you're going for with the car. Both cars do perform exceptionally well though. In a straight line, obviously the Infiniti is going to be a little quicker. There's not much that we can do about it today. We're on residential streets, so I'm not going to be ripping it in either car, but on paper the Infiniti is quicker. In reality though, I find that this handles better. This is very similar to the Kia Stinger that we filmed, and I talked about that when we did the Infiniti Q50S before. I found that it handled very well, but just not as well as the Kia Stinger. And this handles the same way as the Stinger, which you would expect. It's based on the same platform. So if you really are taking this on the track, I think that this would be more enjoyable. But that'll be the real key factor. Are you looking for a car that's good on the track, or are you looking for a car that's good on the road? They're both good. They offer different things to different buyers, and that's the thing. You really do need to drive both of them. The reason I feel that these are both very interesting vehicles to be able to film is because they're not the de facto car. It's not the BMW 340i. It's not the Mercedes C43 AMG. This is something different. It's new. People are interested in what's new. And I do think that Genesis has a very bright future ahead of them when it comes to cars like this. I also think Infiniti does too. Man, I really changed my opinion about that brand, being able to drive the Q50S the first time. It certainly feels a little bit more dated, especially compared to this, but there's so much potential with it. It is a great looking car. Man, just looking at it in the mirror here as it pulls up beside us. Whew, man, what a nice looking car. You gotta agree that it looks good. Both of these cars do. But which would you take? Which would I take? That's the question.
Let's get down to brass tacks here. The Infiniti Q50 Red Sport 400 all-wheel drive has fog lamps and more power over the Genesis, including an interior that felt like it had more room, plus a hybrid model, if that sort of thing is important to you. It also comes with a 16-speaker Bose professional audio system, which differs from the 15-speaker Lexicon system found on the G70. Furthermore, you get that 35 horsepower over the slightly larger engine found on the Genesis, but lose out on that 8th gear and a bit of torque. By comparison, the Genesis G70 3.3 Turbo Sport all-wheel drive has a color head-up display, ventilated front seats, heated rear seats, a better navigation system, and the Lexicon audio sounded better in our opinion. The Genesis also handled better and performed better on the road, including transmission shifts that were quicker, brake stopping power, and overall control in the corners, though the Infiniti's ride was smoother. I really do think that buyers are going to be cross-shopping these two vehicles, especially since both Infiniti and Genesis offer a wide range of trims, and these fully loaded models retail for essentially the same price. After spending a week with each of these cars and getting to really understand what each one has to offer, my personal choice would be the Genesis G70 for a number of reasons. Aside from handling better and offering a more luxurious and modern feeling interior, the Genesis really stands out from the rest. We had more interest from passers-by during our week with the Genesis than we did with the Infiniti, and we love a car that can turn heads. Both of these cars are really strong contenders in the near-performance compact executive sedan market, giving buyers something different to consider instead of the usual BMW 3 Series or Mercedes C-Class. Different is what gets us excited. Thanks for watching this episode of Test Drive Showdown on the Infiniti Q50S and Genesis G70. I want to thank Group Park Avenue and Infiniti Brossard for letting us film their car in order to get both of these side by side for our episode. We feel it dramatically enhances the feel of these showdown episodes when we have our subjects next to each other so we can compare them side by side. What do you think about these two sports sedans? Do they have what it takes to be a serious player in the luxury world? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to our channel for more episodes of Test Drive. Until next time, take care.